All right, guys, we are back with an update to my 1 HP Chaos Immune Monk. I've combined a lot of stuff into this with a lot of gear, some farming, some trading. I got some lucky drops. I looted Ingenuity Belt off of the Ritual Pinnacle boss last night. I used all my currency and farmed my map. Finally, on my map, was able to locate, let's see, where are they? Not one. There was one here, a second down here, and then recently I even just found like a third over here somewhere. So I've been finding a lot of citadels on my map to get maps to farm the Pinnacle boss. I've done a lot of Pinnacle boss farming. I've now killed him twice, the main guy twice. I killed the ritual guy twice. I've killed the breach guy to get the full 8. Haven't found this guy yet. Had to buy that jewel off the market. I've full cleared this map. So we're doing quite well there. I'll even show you what this is what I recorded one of the kills, the second one. So here's an idea of the upgrade of what we're dealing with now in terms of DPS. We're now capable of doing this, which just absolutely annihilates him. So we'll get to that in a second. There's some other stuff going on with this build, but yeah, we've done some tweaking. So this video assumes you watched my first video, if you haven't, about understanding what the 1 HP and the fact that we're using Chaos Immunity, which is this over here. I strongly advise going and watching that video first. This is the more progressed, upgraded endgame version of that build, and things have gotten pretty crazy. Yeah, so let me show you. Additions to the build that we've added in. We had this in Astromantis in the last build, I believe. Or no, that was a different video. I think I was using the shields. Okay, updates to this since the last video. I realize a lot has changed. We have Astromantis now. We're using Pillar of the Cage God. We have the gloves. We got a really good chest. We looted Ingenuity. A lot of gear changes. We're using a lot of uniques now. I realized I had one video up. I deleted it. The video talking about Cage God and Astromantis. That was when I was watching what some other people were doing offensively with it. I realized my version wasn't quite as good, so I took some ideas from other YouTubers. I'll try to find it and links in the comments later or in the description later. But basically, the entire loadout offensively has changed. Defensively, we're still doing the same thing. We still only have 1 HP. We still have all of our resists. We still have really good evasion and armor thanks to Wind Dancer. But some stuff has changed. First thing we're using now is we're using Pillar of the Cage God. This is probably the single most powerful weapon in the game. If you don't know, you will know. If you do know, welcome back from PoE 1, because stat stacking apparently in PoE 1 was a thing. The concept behind making this insane is you want to stack as much base main stat as possible. As you can see right now, I've got a ton of strength, a ton of dex, a ton of int. It's just wild. It's crazy what we got going on right now. The main ways you stack the main stat is Astromantis certainly helps. This is a really good roll. I bought it cheap. It was like an 82. I used 1 Divine Orb on it and rolled a 98. So that was sick. Saved a lot of money doing that. This gives you 117 plus the 8 to all stats. So right out the gate, you're looking at a ton of stats. You can get an Ingenuity Belt, thank the RNG gods. Again, rolled a 47, used 1 Divine Orb, now it's a 74. Thank you, RNGs. This dropped for me off the Ritual Pinnacle boss last night. King of the Mist or whatever. And yeah, this makes it so your rings are really beefy. So if you get main stat on your rings like this breach ring, now all of a sudden you're getting even increased on that to add to main stat. And then these gloves are a big part of why the build does so much damage. Adds 1 to 10 lightning damage to attacks per 10 intellect. Now, you have a ton of intellect, obviously 568 on the tree right now. The way this works is the base stat of the weapon seems incredibly low, but the increase from all your stats is multiplicative against all your other sources of damage. So with this providing 560 top end lightning damage from the 560 int, that 560 lightning damage then gets multiplied by the weapon damage provided by your massive insane amounts of strength, which for me right now is an 1100% bonus. So is this insane? Yes. Probably one of the most broken builds in the game? Yes. Is it better? Is this and the Gemling or whatever builds that are using this? I think it's probably the most powerful thing in the game offensively. I don't think anything can touch this. You're about to see why. We didn't even talk about the fact that the AoE, turns it in. So I'm going to go into the fine details of some other things with this. We'll talk about some passive changes and stuff, but first I'm just going to jump right into a map and show you what we're capable of doing so you get an idea of what's going on here, and then we'll talk about it. So this is just crazy. It completely redid my gameplay when I added this, and I still have Meditate. Oh, by the way, I've been messing around with Grim Feast. A lot of comments about that. I tried it out. You guys were right. It is nuts. So now we pretty much just one-shot the screen. We can run up to packs, do this pop, boom. This is like a 15, I think. Yeah, there's just only 79s. It doesn't really matter. It's the same no matter what difficulty you're doing. You just pretty much blow up the screen. I guess, you know, some classes have a little bit more mobility, but our one-shot pop on this is it's just insane now. The AoE that we're getting from the intellect makes this shot just huge. We're just nuking the board. The frost jump right here, you can jump into them, and that causes a massive AoE. It's great for breaches, too. This is a really generic one. I'm not even going to grab the shrine to not water down what's happening here, but yeah. In breach, you can just imagine the kind of AoE damage you're doing in breach. For single target, you still have flurry, and you still have the bell, and there's a... Whoa. Almost just broke my game there. There's still a weird interaction with Cast on Shock and Frozen Orb. We'll talk about that in a minute too, but that was what you saw in the video. I don't know why my game's taking a shit right now, but yep. So here you go. This is the Mach 2, and like I said, I was using this exclusively for a while, and then I realized no, this is what I should be using for quick map clears. It's just too good. This is still king for single target damage. Like there's no denying that. But when it comes to just quick map clearing, like you can't go wrong with this. It's just so insane for breaches and whatever. Especially when you add this little frost punch into it to get the big AoEs. It's just really, really powerful. And we have our own secret sauce where we're still adding in the crazy amount. So you're going to see other people with variants of this build on the internet. If you were to go Googling on YouTube for this right now, you would find it. You would see people with like slightly modified loadouts, maybe a couple different skills or passives. We'll talk about what I'm using for skills and passives. But as far as the Chaos Immune Shield Defend hybrid to go with that I hadn't seen yet. It doesn't seem like people have really bothered to mess with that yet. I personally love it. I still have insane survivability with this. So the one thing that a lot of people were commenting on it originally, in the original video, I didn't comment on this, but I meant to, and I'll talk about it real quick, was Grim Feast, the passive that says when you get kills, these little wispy orb things here appear, and they overclock your shield similar to how Meditate does when you do this. Now, originally I was like, well, I don't need to overclock my shield with them because Meditate already overclocks it. I already get plenty from Meditate. Why would I need Grim Feast? It seems redundant. The more and more I played and the more and more I was doing really intense chaotic content, the more and more I realized that, like, no, it is still very, very good. Because when you're doing chaotic content like breaches and there's enemies swarming you nonstop and you can't let up for even a second to get a meditate off or to let your shield regen, you're just on borrowed time and they're just doing damage to you to the point where they're going to kill you. The cool thing about Grim Feast is it allows you to play Bloodborne style where you're trading blows, you're getting kills, and oh man, I really got to run all the way back around. Are you kidding me? You're getting kills and you're doing stuff while they're doing stuff, so you're allowing yourself to heal in the middle of combat. It is really, really good. I still kept Meditate. I didn't get rid of it. So we're running both, which I stand by, and I will continue to do that. But yeah, I can firmly say Grim Feast is really good. Now, the problem was I had to figure out what to trade off for it. And in this version of the build, the trade-off was actually Ghost Shroud, and I'll explain why I got rid of that in a second as well. Grim Feast just ended up being better. There really isn't anything in the loadout round right now I can afford to get rid of to get Ghost Shroud back. And at the end of the day, it just seemed like the lesser option. The only other option would be to get rid of Wind Dancer. And I suppose an argument could be made in that you could get rid of Wind Dancer. I don't know. I just really like Wind Dancer. I think it's strong. I think you could make an argument that it's stronger. Straight. If you were right now, gun your head, which passive do you think is stronger, Wind Dancer or Ghost Shroud? For their relative effects and what they provide, if you really think about it, it's tough. I actually don't know, because the stacks of Wind Dancer are providing the evasion, which is also giving us the armor. And yes, it goes away when you get hit, but it also creates a knockback that can help you in sticky situations sometimes, depending on how you skilled it. I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up. I think that an argument can be made for either. But yeah, there you go. So yeah, now that you've seen what this thing's capable of doing, I'll go show you. Let's go talk about the build a bit, because it is nutty. Or even better, you know what? I could probably do more gameplay. Hold on. Let me just try to find one with a quick boss real quick. Let's just go shit pump a boss. There you go. Savannah, yeah, perfect. There's a boss in here. Let's go do this real fast. You know what? Let's just do a 216 to say we did. Full 82 eye level boss. Let's do it. You get to see the boss DPS. So this is dumb. There's a strange interaction with the bell right now. Even if they nerf or fix or whatever you want to call this, I still think this is going to be very powerful regardless. Just not as powerful, but like I feel like a lot of classes in the game yet can say stuff like that. There's a lot of burning ground. I hate this, but this is where the see how we're picking up these little orbs and our shield is getting topped off. I don't really have to worry about the meditate. I don't really have to worry about pretty much anything. Like I can just kind of go and we'll get the shield top off naturally. So yeah, Grim Feast is awesome. You guys were right, those that you were defending it. I hadn't played with it enough. I was being stubborn and on testing. Anybody that suggested that in the comments in the previous video, or anybody that sent me a DM talking about it, you're right. You win. It is that good, and I can't see, as long as I'm playing this 1 HP version of the build, I can't see a future where I'd ever not be running it. It really is just that good. It has a chance to running that. Get off my dick. I didn't realize those enemies there. So I have also had the common sense to switch to running Delirium maps pretty much exclusively. If you're not doing this, you should be doing this. It's funny, I was a late bloomer to this. I just didn't realize the value in using the crappy red juice on my Waystone maps, but make sure you're doing this. And again, this is one of those things where I'm sure a lot of PoE 1 veterans or people that have been playing PoE 1 a lot, this is just like common sense stuff. You'll just be like, yeah, obviously you do that. But for someone like me who's coming over, who doesn't know about the little things, you know, this little stuff can be a game changer. And for those of you wondering, the reason you want to play these Delirium maps and instill your Waystones pretty much all the time is you're getting a lot more enemies now on your map, which is just free experience. But they also drop these Simulacrum shards. And yeah, these things add up. They sell, or you can use them in the Delirium. All right, watch this. Here we go. You ready? Watch how fast we delete this idiot. Here we go. Drop this. I messed up my combo already. And their mana is the only thing holding you back, and he's dead. So there you go. Boss DPS is just absolutely insane now. There's a weird interaction where when cast on Shock procs the Frost Orb little bolts are just nuking the bell and causing the bell to like rapid fire hit the boss like, oh, that's a pathfinder, like crazy. So like I said, that could get nerfed, that could get fixed, whatever it is, I don't know. This thing's hurting me. I got a stupid fire in the ground is causing all kinds of problems. And we'll stand right here and then we'll top off. So there's really no downside to the build right now. There's basically only three things in the game capable of killing me. Thing number one, the Delirium event when you use a Simulacrum. That's actually incredibly difficult. That's like, I think that's the hardest content in the game. If you haven't done it yet, it's a 15-round gauntlet in a very small space. And even with this incredible survivability and AoE damage, the buffs the enemies get and the debuffs they give you and the amount that come out breach style rushing at you can be really overwhelming. For us, the biggest problem I was running into was stun. So one thing I didn't realize was the stun mechanic is based on your maximum health. This was a bit of a revelation. And going down to 1 health, obviously a problem. That's not good for your stun threshold. So there are skill nodes on the board that you could run. What I've been trying to do right now is shop for sapphires that say X% of your shield total is applied to your stun threshold. And that seems to be making a pretty big difference. The first time I died in the Delirium event, I think I was on wave 13 or 14. And what ended up happening was the enemies were crowding me and getting me stun locked, basically. They were on top of me and punching me. And even though they were punching the shield, and even though my shield was coming up a little bit, it wasn't enough. Like, they were still taking me out because I just couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. Happened in breaches a few times, too. I'd have breach events where the enemies were just like circling me and keeping me pinned and I couldn't do anything about it. So, yep, we'll talk about that in a second. I'll show you the new and updated. I have to create a new load planner, which I haven't done yet. I eventually did it. I said I wasn't going to do it in the last video, and then I did it. So give me some time, and when I feel inspired, I'll create a planner for exactly what I'm using now. Although, like I said, you're probably going to find other people doing this too, and there's a good chance they're doing it better than I am. The only reason I'm making this video is because I hadn't seen the Chaos Immunity combo with it, as mentioned, and it was fun. And I figured it was worth an update because you guys really had some positive feedback on the last video. You guys seem to like it, so I figured I'd keep you in the loop as to what I was up to. So just go through this real quick. What did we get? Junk. Yeah, I don't care. It's fine. I'm a broke ass bitch right now. I got some stuff up for trade, but my currency's low, only 60 and 22. I burned through a lot on some keys. Uh, it's pretty brutal buying. One of the things I've been buying is I basically save up stuff, and then when I have enough money, I buy the stuff to run pinnacle bosses because the loot you can get. Like I ran the last boss a few times and looted this chest like 3 times. Kept the best one, got lucky with the corruption, but then sold the other ones and made back like as much or more than what it cost me. I got lucky. I had the other one of the other ones I rolled was the increased attributes. But the point is that like you can do some free roll boss running by just purchasing some of the boss mats and then getting lucky. But it was mostly just because I wanted to get the this stuff. Like I wanted to knock out more of these. And I bought the first boss because this it gives you the the final points for this, which was pretty cool because it allowed me to grab more rarity off the bosses or whatever. And then when I saw that I looted the coat, I was like, oh, I died on him one time. So in the tier 3, he got I had maybe it's not a new ability, maybe I was just killing him so fast I didn't see it. He has this one crazy ability. I won't spoil it for anybody not looking for spoilers on it, but he has this one ability that was one-shotting me and I wasn't you'll know what I mean when I say I wasn't fast enough to defeat the mechanic. I don't know what to do. Maybe I need more movement speed, but he kept getting me with it and I toned it back down to 2 and I was able to kill him. So I haven't killed him on 3 yet. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that he was challenging enough. And then this event I haven't gotten my points on yet because I died. Breach I feel is definitely the easiest of the bosses, especially for us because the boss does a lot of chaos damage. And I don't know what's going on with this, but I have ran a lot of logbooks. I've even been buying logbooks off the trade market, and I still. Now, I did some digging to understand it, and my understanding is it has to be a certain eye level or something for him to spawn in the map. So I was even buying the logbooks at the appropriate eye level, and I've been checking my map for the nodes that I can use 15s and 16s in the appropriate combination to get the high enough eye level to loot the logbooks, and I still just cannot get him to spawn. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this guy. But let's go over the gear one more time. We'll do gear, then we'll do skills, and then I'll do the passive. So for the gear, the uniques in question here is this is the weapon that brings the whole build together. Your stacking stats. Now this has a corrupted lightning damage. I pulled this off the market cheap before more and more people caught on. You can do crit damage. Getting the corruption for crit damage and also gemming for crit damage is good. I found that out after I did this myself because I came up with this combo on my own. And then once I realized this combo was valid and other people were doing it, that's when I started snooping the internet. Because this was the combo I originally came up with myself. And then I found out about these, and then it even made even more sense. And then I found out about these two. This one from just straight up looting it, and then this one because it drops so frequently off the last boss. So finding all 5 of these together, it really made the build go pop. And it's kind of funny because like people don't realize that, yeah, there are actually some really powerful uniques in this game. It isn't all just about rares. And then you kind of just want stats and resistances on your rings, whatever, physical damage if you can get it. Movement speed, main stat, resistances on your boots. Resistances, I want as much energy shield here as I can get with some resistances there. So, yep. That's pretty much it for that. Now, as far as skills go, right now, we're using Shattering Palm for the big AoE splats in the big groups. It works really well. We have switched to the Combat Frenzy method, primarily because they fixed this. Lightning damage of supported skills contributes to electrocution. It is very, very, very easy to get a lightning skills to electrocute now, which means this is just going off all the time now. And I got rid of Falling Thunder. So this just makes sense. This is the best way to go about it. It's not even a question. Cast on Shock with Eye of Winter is what's causing the insane single target boss damage. This will probably be fixed or nerfed or whatever at some point. Pretty straightforward. Or just using your basic meta gem boosts with this chain thing apparently works with it too. I don't know how all this works. It bugged, whatever. I don't know. It works. It's in the game. They fix it. I'll change it. I don't care. Grim Feast for now. It is very powerful. Every time you get kills, they have a chance to give you the remnants. This is for the high pressure, big AoE moments like Breach and Delirium events where you have a lot of enemies and you need the constant killing and healing and killing and healing. You can't go wrong with Grim Feast. And then Wind Dancer. Now, this could become Ghost Shroud. I'm on the fence with which one is more EHP. Still working on that. It may be Ghost Shroud over this. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Still working on it. We'll figure it out. But this is very good. And I've got stuff that enhances the knockback when they hit you. Supported skills don't cause stun. Instead, they do pinning when they knock back. They always maim. You get more stun threshold. This is just stuff I was using for the initial boost. Now, these are the bread and butter of your actually attacks. Stormwave is your spammer on AoE. We're using attack speed. Supported skills cannot inflict shock, lightning damage, instead electrocutes them. The 2 additional fissures, this counts as a fissure skill, lowers the damage by a considerable amount. We're talking the 96 sheet goes all the way up to 202 without it. But you're getting the spread to clear the map. This is your spreader. You don't care. So that's why, I mean, you could theoretically do that, I guess. I don't know. If you wanted a single shot, maybe that's viable. Probably not. You probably want the spread for the big AoE. And then 25% more weapon damage. Also, look at those numbers, right? Who would have thought a level 4 weapon with 22 max fizz could start pulling out 100k sheet DPS or whatever. Charge staff. This is no longer a bread and butter damage dealer. The damage dealer on single target is the bell, and the damage dealer in AoE is the wave. This is kind of an extra DPS support on top. It shocks the bell. It does stuff. So we've kind of spec'd it that way. Chance to not remove charges when you recast it. Why not? Supported skills inflict lightning exposure on the enemy. When shocking, they can shock. It's fine. Got extra damage as lightning damage. Attacks that damage as lightning damage for 3 seconds, like killing a shocked enemy with supported skills. It goes off sometimes. You could move this over here. The problem is that, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe I move this on this. If I had a 5th slot, I might put that on that because it's killing the little enemies for pack clearing so much. I just didn't really have a spot here I wanted to get rid of for that yet. But, like, you could make an argument for this on Stormwave, I guess, whatever. And then supported skills electrocute prime targets. So what ends up happening is when you cast Shockwave and you're casting this, it's still shooting the little bolts. So this will be charging it up in the bigger enemies, and then this is like the finisher that will actually, like, shock them at lower values if they have enough to go off. So it's good against bosses, it's good against rares, stuff like that. And then Tempest Flurry, still our bread and butter for single target. Recovered energy shield when it kills a killing blow. Honestly, I may move this. This might be... I'm curious how much... Well, oh, never mind. This can't shock. I'd have to get rid of this. I forgot right now I have the electrocution, so it literally can't shock. So you could put this on this, I guess. Because I was thinking about that. Or you put this one on the bell, maybe? I don't know. This is an interesting skill that I've been trying to fit in for the high pressure delirium. I've really in the tank on that delirium event. It really is difficult AoE content. It really pushes the limits of survivability on the end stages. This, maybe. I didn't really consider that being moved around. Because Flurry's just not really used that much. It's like, it's a vessel for delivering the damage on single target, but you don't really, it's just not that big a deal anymore. So supported skills deal more attack damage to enemies within 1 meter of you, since this is basically a melee skill, right? Energy shield recharge begins immediately and is not interrupted by damage for 2 seconds when stunned while using supported skills. This might end up going on shocking. This is probably it. If I can get the 5th slot, I'll probably move this up. Yeah, this would be good because when they're stun locking you, yeah, I actually like this idea. I might make this change later and try it. That way, if I'm trying to click on Stormwave and I'm mid-cast and they stun me in those Delirium events, I'll get the 2 seconds of stun because I'm using this way more than I'm using this. Yeah, I should have put that on earlier. That's a good idea. So I'm going to make that change. But that's only if I can get the 5th gem slot. And the problem is when I get these 5th gem slots, I kind of just want to sell it. They're worth so much. I don't even really want to use it. That's why I only have the one. I've looted another one and I sold it instead. I didn't want to use... I already regretted using the one. And then lastly, 100% chance to blind. Again, you could put this somewhere else. You could put this in the bell. If only we had 5 slots and everything, right? But this is pretty straightforward. You can mess around with this, tinker with it. None of this is concrete. The real wild stuff is this. So our passive tree is bananas now. It's kind of boring, honestly, but we'll talk about this last. So this middle section, kind of the same. We cut a lot of these increased attack damage nodes out because this is just a lot of dumpy additive damage. We have a node down here that's really powerful. So the main thing is you want to curve all the way down here. First of all, making this long curve, you're getting main stats, so it's not so bad. Some people talk about, I think the math, at least on Gemling, I think, the math is you're supposed to want to take in. So I haven't actually crunched the numbers on this. Math nerds can tell me why I'm right or why I'm wrong or whatever. I don't know. The argument I've seen people say is because this gives intelligence. Because the intelligence gives damage from this. Technically, if you do the math on percentage increases, it makes more mathematical sense to stack int because the int is going to give you the damage and multiplying it against strength is higher than if you were to take just strength and lower int. And that math checks out. The only problem I have with this is that's not the only thing this is multiplying. I saw that math on someone that was a gemling. They weren't talking about charge staff, first of all. So charge staff's adding more damage. Plus you're getting damage from the lightning damage here on the staff. Plus you can get damage on your rings sometimes. So while the argument in favor of int over strength makes sense in a vacuum when we're just talking about the gloves, the reason I don't know so sure about that math is when you factor in all the other damage sources. Now all of a sudden I haven't done the numbers to check. My dex is really low, which is too bad because if you come all the way down here and you look at this tree, there's 10% increased attributes, obviously an insane node for this one. These all give +3, and then there's this one. Plus 2% increased damage per 5 of your lowest attribute. So what's cool about this is 345 is our lowest. We could work on boosting this up. For every 5, we're getting 2, which means all those 10% nodes that we gave up to make our way down here, any node on this tree that's like this, that's 10%, that's effectively the equivalent of 50 dex in the other node. So we're giving these up because these are all just additive with what's going on down there. And there are some juicy ones. There's a 24% increased attack here. There's this one here, 30% increased attack damage against rare unique enemies. Like, this is all fine. This is all good and dandy, but this down here is just too important. And our damage is so good right now. We're not really, I mean, you've seen what we're doing. We're not really hurting on numbers. If you really wanted to squeeze it out, you could like get rid of this evasion stuff. You could take more here. You could try to fill this line back in. You could do whatever. Some people think this line isn't very good. I think you need this 30% increased defenses while building a staff if you're doing the shield stacking chaos immunity build because you really, really, really need that shield stacking. So I still prefer this tree. I've seen some people get rid of nodes there and sacrifice that. You come up here to grab the resonance so that you're creating your frenzy charges. We're still taking a lot of these evasion shield and energy shield and evasion nodes. I took this because I like the movement speed. You get dex and int, and the mana regeneration is a problem when you're spamming your bell because it's draining it with the frost orbs are taking a lot of your mana out of there. So we have this increased skill attack speed, another mana regen node there. And you come up over here, you get your chaos immunity, puts you to 1, and then you got this up here. Now, if you haven't seen these, if you don't want spoilers on late game boss loot, you can just end the video right now. I don't want to talk about this if you want cool endgame. If you're one of those people that you want to kill a pinnacle boss for the first time and see some new, cool, unique, game-changing loot, uniques, just close the video right now or rewind and watch the rest. This is the last thing we're going to talk about. Everything else makes sense. You've seen the skills, you've seen the gear, you've seen the passives. You can rewatch this video and check points of it if you need to if you were to try to copy this. The pain points are that these uniques are obviously very hard to get. This is the hardest part. Is there a version of this that exists without the uniques? Yes. If you take Astromantis off, notice we lose a lot of stat. But our stats are still pretty good. Like, this is still totally fine, even without Astromantis, which is debatably the most expensive part. The next most expensive part is this. 5% increased attributes with 10 all resistance. If we get rid of that, we're dropping even lower. But the build is still good. This is still viable with rares in those slots. You could still make this work even without this. So if you copied everything you just saw, the only difference is you're going to need to make up a lot of resistances on your neck and on your chest because this is what my resistances look like without it. Now, that being said, I don't really have any resistances on my rings right now because the chest was making up for it. So if you could get resistances on your rings, a chest with decent resistances, and an amulet or whatever, and you could retop these off, this build with 300 strength and 300 int is still going to be a pumper just with the staff and with these gloves. This is a cherry on top. You absolutely don't need this earlier. Obviously, I'm using it because I looted it. I'm happy about it. It's my baby. This was my big wake the neighbors up at 3 a.m. from screaming, holy moly, Mother Mary, Jesus, in the middle of the night. But you don't need it. You could use a regular belt. It's not mandatory by any means. So is this build necessary to have Astromantis in this? No, I don't think so. You could make rares and find a way. And once you get your strength to around 300 and your int around to 300, if you have these gloves and you have this staff, you will see results. You will see the numbers. You will see the big damage just fly up, and you'll be clearing packs in no time. So make that my number one takeaway. These are the 2 items to make the build pop. These 2 make the build God mode, but I don't think they're necessary. And this is the final cherry on top if you can get it, but again, not necessary. Focus on resistances without these two on your rings. Focus on extra damage like lightning damage and physical because they multiply into the strength bonus, and you'll be good to go. So, if you're leaving before I show you this, it was fun. I'll see you in the next video. If you're staying for the spoiler, let's keep going. So, when you kill Orloth, which I haven't, I had to buy this from the market because I literally can't get a logbook. When you kill Orloth, he drops this. Heroic Tragedy, Timeless Jewel. Now again, this is something for PoE 1. This isn't a spoiler for anybody that played that. For anybody new who's like me, who's playing PoE 2, this is a pretty big spoiler. The wording on it is very strange. It says, remembrancing songworthy deeds in the line of Vorana, passes in the radius are conquered by the Kalgur Historic. This gem does two effects. Those lines indicate two things. The first effect, passes in the radius are conquered by the Kalgur. That effect has an impact on your notables. So these notable passives and your main passive, if you take this jewel off, they go back to the normal ones. When you slot the jewel in, they transform and they become totally new. And they do different effects, totally new stuff, everything changes. That is based on the Kalgur Historic. So in the future, when they add more of these timeless jewels, based on the Kalgur Historic or whatever historic it is, that's going to dictate what these do. The other line of text in this says, Songworthy Deeds by the line of Varana. Now what that line does is there's 3 variants, and each of the variants affects your key passive, the major one. Now, I don't remember what I know what the other 2 do, but I don't remember which gives with. I think it's Orloff does Dex and the other guy. I don't know. You'd have to look it up before you invest in this. Make sure you get it right. I'm sure there's plenty of guides out there also talking about this. One of them changes Dex to giving you evasion % instead of accuracy. Huge. Gemlings get double benefit from this, so it's even bigger for them. Int, honestly, I don't remember. It changes it to something. Was irrelevant. But Vorana changes your strength to giving you shield %. Strength inherent bonus is 1% increased energy shield per 2 strength instead. That means this 575 strength in our 1 health build is giving us almost 300% additional energy shield. Watch the energy shield, 4753. Watch what happens watch how much this 1 jewel is providing us. We go down to 29. It's almost 2,000 energy shield from just this 1 jewel. And all we're giving up is armor, which we don't even care about. Normally this just gives us armor. So it's like a completely free thing to get. This jewel is insane. And this sets us up beautifully if we come up here, because we've got this passive right near this jewel slot that we can grab after we come up from grabbing Chaos Immunity, Inoculation. So this is nuts. It worked out so well. My shield's a little lower than before because the problem is when you're switching to all these uniques, you're not getting those. There's barely any shield on this. We don't have the shield amulet anymore. And this, while great because it rolls armor, evasion rating, and energy shield, it's lower by half than our old previous one. I should point out that, by the way, too. In case you're wondering when I was showing the skills, remember earlier when I was like, yeah, this could be, why don't we get Ghost Shroud in here? If you're thinking to yourself, why don't you just get another additional slot on your ring and you can put it in? We have like no spirit now. This thing, because the stats are lower on it, it makes it so we have a lot less spirit than we used to have using a rare chest. My old rare chest, I still have it in the bank just in case they nerf something with this. My old chest is like 450 energy shield with 1157 evasion rating. We dropped to half that with this. So we lost a lot in order to switch to this build. The gains we got were incredible, don't get me wrong, but we definitely lost a lot making the switch in terms of spirit. And we're really, really close. I was looking at the stuff that I had in here that was imbued to do like the additional reservation. Even swapping around additional reservation, it doesn't work. You could take out the cast on shock, I guess, for the single target pumper. Like you could just get rid of this, put Ghost Shroud in. Honestly, it's something I've considered doing just for the Delirium event because the single target damage, the mini bosses in the Delirium event aren't really as bad as a normal boss. I've strongly considered taking the cast on shock out and putting the Ghost Shroud in just for the extra survivability. That's something I may do. So there you have it. Yeah, this may be the most powerful build in the game. I really do think this, I mean, you could rewind and watch the numbers and see what we were doing, but this is the dream loadout. This is the true endgame build. It's funny trying to when people ask for advice in general chat and you try to explain to them how good this build is and what the uniques are doing, and they're like, "Oh, using your weaks. No wonder you're having a hard time." And it's like, you guys just, you don't get it. You guys don't get it. You got to play with this to see it to believe it. So if you guys post comments and the questions, I'll answer them. I'm sure, like I said, I'm definitely not the first person to come up with this video, and I won't be the last, or this build, I mean. I just hadn't seen anybody else combining it with the one life chaos immunity. It is possible to build this out with both. You can have the best of both worlds. So yeah, there you have it. See you in the next one, guys. Have some fun out there, and good luck. Goodbye.